So when I was at my local fish store the last time, I found that the Bettas that they had there was in, I don't really know how to describe it, less than ideal state, I think. So the female that we got going in here was accompanied by another female and 4 dead and some partially decayed female friends. And that was a pretty tragic sight, you know. It was not pleasant at all. And then there was this guy, this little fella, and he was, well, let's just say he was not really looking too pretty. From the looks of it, he looks to be some sort of a yellow, brownish, turquoise, Betta crown tail male. Back when I got him, he had this slight yellow tint to his tail, but he was like the color of a fish that has been dead for a couple of days already. He was the worst one off of the males. I sadly only had room to buy 1 male. I don't have room to store any more than that, and this is also a bit makeshift, so we need something that's just a little bit better. But we'll get that, and it will get there even quicker if you guys go ahead and hit the subscribe button on these videos, because that helps me out to grow my channel, and then we can get even more room and more Bettas and the like, and help more fish. And that's a good thing, because this guy is rather pretty, and it was kind of sad to see him in the shape that he was in, but luckily though, he's already gotten so much color. Like, he has these lovely, beautiful turquoise stripes down through his tail, and he has like black tips on his crown tail and everything. And he even, you know, shows a bright, beautiful yellow on his tail in general. So he's a really good looking male. We also rescued 2 females. Now, sad to say though, 1 female passed away less than 48 hours after I brought her home. She was looking in great shape, but still not really active at all. So I don't know if they were infected by anything, which is also why they are currently swimming around down here, because I don't really want to throw that into my tanks in case they are infected with a parasite or something of the like. Now, that is of course not guaranteed, and I mean, I was kind of hesitant if I should do this, but I have to be very honest with you. It has for a very long time also been a huge wish for me to try to spawn Bettas. Yes. And seeing this guy over here, well, he definitely wants to spawn, I think. He has not just 1 bubble nest, but 2 bubble nests. I do suppose that might be because it's been split due to me moving this. But there is 1 here and 1 here, and that is very cool. And then over here, well, the female, she's still doing good. It's now been 10 days since I grabbed these folks here, and all in all, they seem to be in perfect shape. So I think it's also time that she soon gets to visit this male, and they get to see each other and maybe make some babies. Hopefully, maybe we'll get some fancies. If not, then it's been a fun project. I have no idea what this combination is gonna give us at the end of the day. She's a turquoise Betta and looks like to some extent purely turquoise genetics. She has a bit of black spots to her as well, but all in all, mostly just turquoise. And then over here, like I said, the yellow crown tail with a bit of turquoise in it. But besides that, hard to say much more about him. All I know is just that his fins are looking so beautiful. I've always seen crown tails in shops, and it's always been the same. They're just so dull looking. They look so terrible. So I've never wanted to buy one, because they look like the tail is just a flabby piece of dead tail at the end of the day, and their fins in general. But now seeing that once you actually feed these and you give them proper food and you give them just clean, proper water where they can thrive, they can actually look rather pretty, and I'm quite happy about that. And also this guy over here, like, he has a white mouth, which is so funny. So his mouth just sticks out so much compared to all of the rest of his body, which is super fun to look at. Like, he's a really, really good looking guy. Oh, and I think he just spotted his wife-to-be over there. Did you? Did you see her? She's pretty, eh? Right. Well, the real reason that I've brought you out here today is just that I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming Betta project here, and what better way to do that than to just do a little bit of maintenance to her isolation tank here, because I figured this tank might as well serve as my future tank that's going to provide me with an absolute bunch of snails for my little puffer in there, because he likes to eat and he likes snails. So we need some snail production going, and we can get that there. So that's pretty nice. Let's get started. Now, as always, we're just gonna start out by dragging out some water here. So I think if we empty around 50%, we should be good. I wanna get some of this debris out over here. And then I wanna replace most of this with a sand bed and just plant some of the plants in here, because apparently aquarium plants right now are just very popular. So I've been selling out a bit of mine, and I'm almost out. So I figured we might as well use this for a plant tank as well. It's gonna be good for the snails, it's gonna be good for the Betta, and it's gonna be good for my wallet. So if you guys want to know more about selling plants, it's super easy actually. Just get some nice, easy to grow plants, get some fertilizer, get a good cycle of tank going. It's super easy. But if you guys want to hear more about that, just let me know down in the comments and I'll see if I can post a video on that later. But let's get some water out of this bad boy. So that's just about 50% of the water. Beautiful. Now the next step we're gonna take is just to get out all of the old plants, and I want to do this in a bit of an untraditional manner here by just dipping each of the plants. And there's, well, a reason for this, and that is because this tank is so full of duckweed, and I actually to most extent want to avoid that. I know we cannot avoid it 100%, but if we can just get a good bunch of it out now, then it will take some time before we get it again. So I'm thinking if we just take the plants here and just dip them in water a couple times, then we will wash off most of them that comes up with this plant whenever we pull it up. Well, I think this should be fine, right? Yeah. It's funny how when I first started in the aquarium hobby, then Bettas was like this just insanely cool fish that if you were new to tanks, you just had to have a Betta. Then as I got more and more experience in aquariums, I also kind of lost interest in the Betta fish. I don't really know why, but I think it's just mostly a result of the fact that it's not as specialist in the trade as it started out with. Like, it's quite common to find, and you would often see all of these Bettas, and it didn't really appeal to me that you could get them in so many different variations, because it kind of just confused my head and I couldn't decide, so I'd rather just not want to have one. The choice was just too great. But when I then saw the Bettas that I found at my local fish store the other day, I knew that now is a better time than ever to experiment with Betta breeding because, well, to be fair with you, I've never seen Bettas in the shape as they were at that shop, so it's also no longer my local fish store. I think that's pretty safe to say, but regardless though, it is a picture that you see more often than not when it comes to Bettas. People have this weird illusion that a Betta fish will thrive in 2 liters of water, and you can just, basically stuff it in a glass jar and then it's going to be happy for the rest of its life. And yeah, I don't know. If I was put on 5 square meters and told to live there for the rest of my life, I would be rather sad. But I don't think a lot of people always think about that. And I also don't really know why that is. It's not a discussion that I feel like I'm experienced enough to get into, whether it's good or bad. It's something that people should decide for themselves at the end of the day. All you can try to do is just tell them what your personal standpoint is when it comes to this, and then either they listen or they don't. But yeah, it's a general thing when it comes to the aquarium hobby. You just see so many people who buy things because they don't know any better, and I don't know, I feel like it's the local fish store that should be doing more to help new aquarium people to make the right choice the first time. But more often than not, you see these shops just buying a whole bunch of Bettas without knowing what they're buying. So they're just seeing like these cheap Bettas that they can easily flip and earn some decent money on without having to do too much, and then they go for it. And of course, if they then buy these cheap Bettas, then once they get them, then realize that, oh, these are not fancy Bettas, these are just regular decent looking Bettas that no one really cares about unless it's someone just buying an aquarium for the sake of having an aquarium. Maybe it's the first time that they buy an aquarium, and yeah, that doesn't really help anyone at the end of the day, and that is a shame in my opinion. But I don't know, I feel like it starts with the fish stores. They should take a stand against these terrible Bettas and these terrible conditions that Bettas are raised under, and try to guide the buyers more. And I'm not saying that this is not happening somewhere, but it's not really something that I have experienced throughout my time of having aquariums. I've always encountered suboptimal conditions for Bettas, at least most of the time. And like I said, it is a real shame that it's like that. It should be better, but I don't really know what to do about it at this point. So yeah, what do you guys think? Like, do you think it's okay? Should I just mind my own business? Let people do what they want when it comes to fish? And who's to blame for so many Bettas having such a bad time? But let's not get caught up into ethics. So the reason, like I said, I'm doing this is because people have been starting to buy plants like no tomorrow. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I put up a lot of these plants for sale some time ago, and nothing was really happening. And then over the past 14 days, I think I'm getting 2 or 3 messages a day, people asking me if I have any plants for sale that I want to sell to people. And I did not have that just a short period of time, or a short amount of time ago, and that has definitely changed. So I figured it's also about time that I try to just rescue what I have left here and get them a proper planting, so that maybe we can grow some nice new looking plants and sell those as well. But yeah, the aquarium hobby has in general just exploded. It seems like so many people are getting aquariums, which is very, very awesome. But it's also, there we are, creating some challenges for the rest of us. Because if you want to supply stuff, now we have to supply even more. Not that I should complain about that, because if people want to buy my plants, then I'm happy, because the more plants they buy, the more projects I can make. Unless you guys subscribe, that is. That's also going to help me make more projects. So please do that. I don't really know how or why it became a thing for me to start like selling and planting stuff, because it's just always something that I to some extent actually hated doing, because it takes so much time. But I guess there is something soothing about watching them grow and stuff like that, and keeping them well. So the reason that I'm trying to make this tank look just somewhat good and use it as a new also tank for one of the Betta females, well, it's also that I feel like if I keep a Betta in a small tank like this, then the least I can do for the Betta is to make sure that they have room to be stimulated, regardless of what they want to do. Because there's a lot of talk about, should you keep a Betta in a small tank or not? I don't personally see a problem with keeping them in smaller tanks at all. Now this one is very dirty, by the way. I'm so sorry for the looks of this, but it is whatever I had lying around, and I just I needed something for them. So I had this old plastic aquarium that I actually bought a very long time ago to store some shrimp fry, and then I later just used it for leftover plants, and now she came and I had to do something. So this is the end result, and it's just like, the least you can do for the Betta then, if you give them small tanks, is to make sure that you highly plant those tanks. Because if you do, well, then at least you're going to create a tank that will allow the Betta to be super stimulated with swimming around through the plants and looking for tank mates and anything that they can harass and threaten, so that they are stimulated and they get to show who they are. That's at least how I find Bettas to be. They want something that they can flash against, and they want something that they can swim and chase for a bit. It's gonna keep them sort of entertained, the way that a Betta is supposed to be entertained. So I hope at some point we can move her to something like a 30-liter tank with just the female Betta, and then the male Betta is, or no, sorry, the other way around. The male Betta in a 30-liter tank, and the female is going to go into one of my other tanks in there, one of the community tanks, where she will hopefully thrive together with a couple of other fish. You can actually see her right now just trying to chase around the shrimps in the tank, and it's something for her to do, which is good. And also just so remembered that we have to remove the duckweed, and I'm not gonna get all of it, but as long as we just get most of it, then I can slowly start removing it more often, and we should be okay. The next thing we gotta do is add some more sand to this. The reason that I'm using sand and I'm not using something like soil or anything of the like is because, again, like I said, this is also going to be a snail tank, so I don't want to risk that the snails are going to get completely hidden in the soil and then I cannot see them when I harvest them, which would be rather annoying as well. So the compromise here is that we're going to be using sand, and then I'm going to try to just stuff that sand with some root taps, and then hopefully that's going to be enough for the plants to thrive on that instead. Just trying to pour the sand here slowly so we don't cover any of the shrimp in here. And there we are. So with a couple of root taps to the bottom, then we're going to be able to make sure that our plants are going to be able to get nutrients even while being planted in sand, which is otherwise not very nutritious. And then we can start planting. Right, so this trim is pretty much coming to an end right here. And again, like I said, I really want to get a bigger tank to do this, but it also just goes to show that you don't need big, high-tech, advanced stuff in order to set up a little cozy house for Betta. This is nothing more than a $5 plastic tub, which can hold, I think, 14 liters. And that's all it really takes. So, and I hope you can enjoy this video, and then if all things go well, then in about 14 days, I'll return with an update. An update that hopefully includes some successful breeding with the Bettas. And even more so, we have 2 Bettas that are still thriving and having a good life. Because with the way and shape that they were in when I bought them, then, I mean, anything is better, but just because anything is better doesn't mean that you don't still have to do whatever you now can do with the knowledge that you have. So if you're thinking, well, should I go rescue a Betta? If you have the space and the time to take care of it and you can give it a good home, absolutely. Because the 2 Bettas that I just grabbed are just one of tens of thousands Bettas that are sold to unknowing people, and it's a bit of a shame that it is like that. It makes no real sense, in my opinion, that you would sell a fish to a person who intends put it in a 3-4 liter tub. And well, yeah, you would know that it's a 3-4 liter tub, because if you don't mind selling Bettas to those people, then you're probably also the kind of fish dealer that sells those 3-4 liter Betta tanks, at least labeled as Betta tanks. And I think that's a real shame. So enjoy the rest of the pictures, and thank you so much for sticking around for yet another video. Really appreciate you guys for being here. So if you're still watching right up until this moment, don't forget to hit the like button just down below, because that also helps the video. Thank you so much.